Leaking top insider stock trades every day until they stop us, October 21st. We're starting to see some shakiness in the market and some sell-offs in some of those industries where we saw a ton of insider selling over the past few months, like energy, a lot of the quantum stocks, some of those really popular retail stocks like Affirm and Carvana. If you've been watching these videos for a while or on the email list, you'll know we've seen a ton of insider selling at these companies, but the insiders tend to start selling relatively early, and when those stocks have a ton of momentum, they can keep going for quite a while after the insiders start selling, but it is definitely a sign when insiders are finally willing to start to sell off some of their shares that they are telling you things are getting a little hot here and it might be time to pay a little closer attention and start to prepare for when things might turn around. Trying to time selling or shorting these is very, very hard, but it is a hint that we're getting close to those points when you start to see all this insider selling. Or like at Affirm, we saw a couple of executives turn on 10b5-1 plans for the first time. All of these can be hints that things might start to turn around at some point. Obviously, who knows? Trump could just announce some deal with China tomorrow and everything turns back around and the momentum continues, but this insider selling is a sign worth paying attention to, even if it doesn't cause you to sell or short a stock right away. And moving on to today's insider trades, we found 82 new trades, and we're entering earnings season, which means a lot of executives will be under a blackout period, so they're not allowed to trade the stock just before or just after earnings, so we'll have a lower number of overall insider trades. However, the insider trades we do find during this period can be very high signal, especially if there are some insiders who probably shouldn't be buying or selling the stock just before earnings who are doing just that, like what we just found at MicroStrategy, where a director just bought $2 million of the stock, their largest purchase ever, just a week and a half before earnings next Thursday. The stock is also down 30% in the last 3 months, and this insider has a really good track record of buying the stock before it pops, but their previous buys were mostly at Core Scientific, so actually most of the returns come from buying Core Scientific, not MicroStrategy. You'll also remember last quarter we found a handful of executives buying MicroStrategy stock in part of the public offering just about a week and a half before earnings, and those earnings came out and they actually weren't that good, and the stock was down like 2 or 3% the next day. In this case, only this director is buying the stock and it's not part of a public offering, so I do think it's a little higher signal than those, and it would be kind of surprising if MicroStrategy's had a bad earnings report next Thursday with this insider buying the stock just a week and a half before. However, MicroStrategy also doesn't tend to go up or down a ton after earnings because they are really just kind of a Bitcoin treasury company, so I wouldn't expect any huge moves, and I don't think this is really the most interesting insider trade of all time, but it's notable that it's happening just a week and a half before earnings. And we have one other director that's also buying the dip, and that's the director at MBX Biosciences who's buying the stock for the first time after it's fallen 40% in the last month. Just over a month ago, the stock popped 100% after positive phase 2 trial results, but it's basically been downhill ever since, with it now down 40% since that pop. This is another company pretty close to earnings, with earnings in about 2.5 weeks from now. However, sort of like MicroStrategy, quarterly results don't tend to matter quite as much at biotech companies because really all that matters is how these trials are going and the results from those trials. Find all the top insider trades at CEOWatcher.com.